Good afternoon and welcome all of the Wirexers, and in particular welcome to all of the 6,000 Crowdcube investors. This is our third ever live stream that we're doing on YouTube. So if you're watching it on the live stream, thanks a lot for joining us and welcome. If you're watching it later, then hopefully you can sit back and enjoy. The first two times we did this, it was absolutely freezing cold here in London. So I'm delighted to finally have a London summer where it's around 18 degrees Celsius, which for us is actually very hot. So hopefully the discussions will be just as warm. And on the famous green Wirex sofa today, we have got none other than Pavel Matveev. He's the co-founder and the co-CEO. He was here for the first two investors segments as well. My name's Martin. I'm the CMO of Wirex and I'm facilitating today. I've been going through all of the questions that you guys have sent through. And on the right of Pavel, we also have Tony Lees. Tony joined us in January. He's the new head of product, so we'll be talking to him a little bit about the product roadmap, new features that are coming, some of the highlights from this year as well. So looking forward to talk to him. There's one other person who couldn't quite squeeze in between these two gentlemen on the sofa. It's not quite big enough, and that is a gentleman called Slava Garal. He is the MD of our APAC region. For obvious reasons, he's not traveling to London just for this investors call, but he is going to be talking to us a little bit later on. Because of the time differences, I spoke to him earlier on today and asked him a few questions about the APAC region, and he's just shared his views on some of the great success there. So we'll be going to hear from Slava a little bit later on in this live stream as well. So what we do, as per usual, each quarter is we ask you guys to send in your questions and comments and anything that you want to know about Wirex, how it's doing as a business. We really value the fact that you chose to invest in us. It's almost exactly 1 year ago, I think it was, that we started the Crowdcube program, and we raised, I think it was around $4 million. So good to have you here still with us. If for some reason you're an investor and you haven't been getting the emails requesting your input or asking if you wanted to put a question to Pavel or any of the team, please remember to check your email and make sure that the Wirex address that you have is the one that you're checking your email from. And the other option is just to join our community forum. We have a dedicated space just for Crowdcube investors that allows you to put questions there and interact with us, ask different things and get feedback, not only in these quarterly sessions, but throughout the year as we go through. Great. So before we start, I just wanted to say welcome to you, Pavel. Great to have you back here. What we're going to do is I've got a huge list of questions from investors, but before we do that, I just wanted to pick your brains and get some highlights from you. So maybe you can give me a bit of your perspective, the highlights for Wirex in Q3, and just generally how we've been doing so far in the year.
Sure. Well, first of all, hello everyone. And talking about first half of the year, I think we discussed it last time, but just to remind everyone, first half of the year was amazing for us as a company. We were hitting all-time high in terms of all metrics: volume, revenue, number of customers, number of app downloads, like everything. Q3 was slightly different. We saw a bit of drop-off or decline in terms of activity on the platform, and it wasn't Wirex specific. I think it was industry-wide, and almost all companies, well, I would say all companies in the space reported the same drop-off, and it's mainly due to just summer, people going on holiday. So in terms of our activity, crypto-related activity, we saw a drop-off, but it quite interestingly that we saw increase in terms of card transactions, because a lot of people use Wirex card as a travel card, and a lot of people were traveling during summer. Starting from last week in August, we saw that revenue and crypto-related activities started picking up. And in September, the trend continued, and we now see that revenue and activity and crypto-related activity started coming back to the H1 level, first half of this year. So we do believe the trend will continue. We also prepared a few metrics, and I can maybe just give these metrics to our audience. We were comparing the period from January till August this year to exactly the same period for the last year, and a few figures. So this year, our transacting user base increased by 55%. Number of registration increased by 73%. Customer verifications increased by 111%. Total exchange volume increased by 87%. So again, we comparing the period this year to exactly the same period of the last year. Maybe just to give you a bit more insights in our EEA business, there are two main countries, the biggest markets for us in EEA is Spain and Italy. And in these markets, in Spain, we've got plus 43%. And in Italy, we've got plus 30% of active customer base. So active customer base in our case is people who are transacting. So active customer is somebody who did at least one transaction. And yeah, that's kind of our view on where we are in Q4, Q3.
Q3, that's great. Thank you very much, Pavel. And I know it's great for you to pick out Spain and Italy, two markets that have been growing substantially. As you said, 43% growth in Spain, 31% in Italy, huge markets for us. We'll also talk a little bit about APAC later on and hear from Slava. So the growth in some of those bigger European markets indeed matched by some of the successes in the APAC region as well. You touched on something about Q3 being a little bit quieter in terms of maybe the overall hype around crypto markets and investments, and maybe that's affecting transactions. It seems to be that there was a bit of a bearish market and now it's becoming a bit bullish. And I'm just wondering, firstly, do you agree with that? And secondly, how do you think that's going to have an impact on Wirex?
Well, I wouldn't say we're in bear market at the moment. Obviously, Ethereum, for example, was hitting all-time high just a week ago. Bitcoin price was 55K, which is quite high as well. So I wouldn't say we are in bear market at the moment. Having said that, I do think a lot of companies, including Wirex, we expecting that there will be crypto winter at some point. There will be drop off in crypto-related activities. And again, a lot of companies in the space thinking that this crypto winter might be coming due to the regulatory crackdown. And we currently see that certain companies, including Wirex in UK, for example, experience this a bit more regulatory pressure. Coinbase is another example in the United States. Uniswap been investigated by SEC. Obviously, Binance probably another example on another side of the spectrum, having issues with every single market. But I don't think there is a bear market at the moment. There are a lot of activity happening in the space. Again, we see on Wirex platform there are a lot of trading activities. There are a lot of new customers coming in. But I think people in the industry, companies in the industry, they're just preparing for potential crypto winter, which might be coming. Nobody knows when it will come, but it usually comes, quite suddenly.
Okay, thanks a lot, Pavel. It's interesting for you just mentioning there about regulatory environment, and it's really a global issue right now that there's lots of regulators, probably given the interest that many consumers, retail investors are having within crypto assets, that the regulators are starting to look at how they can be best placed to regulate it, to keep it a safe environment for everyone. That kind of leads us nicely probably into the question that you probably don't like answering, and I probably as a CMO don't like talking about, but many investors are quite rightly asking is, we have a situation in the UK right now that our British-based customers, they're able to make transactions, they're able to spend the money they have on their card, but there are limits in terms of acquiring new customers for us. That's been temporarily put on hold, as well as for existing customers topping up their funds and so on. Could you give us an update on what's happening in the UK with regards to the FCA and when our British-based customers are going to be able to start taking full advantage of all of our features?
Sure. So maybe just provide a bit of recap what we were discussing on the last investor update. So that's correct. We put restrictions in UK for certain activities for UK customers, for existing and new customers. And I think last time when we had this meeting, I was talking that we will be submitting kind of response or a plan to FCA, and we were waiting for a response from FCA. So it's exactly what happened. We basically did everything they wanted us to do. We submitted our response to FCA. After that, we have a few calls with FCA where FCA verbally confirmed that everything is all right, everything is in place. And we agreed, and we were told by FCA that the next step for us will be to receive an official response with the next steps. So how it works with regulator, you need to receive a paper, email, explaining what would be the next steps. And the challenge for us is that we kind of still waiting for this response. We've been chasing FCA constantly every week. Last week we were told that it should be coming. Actually, this week we were told that it should be coming next week. But there was delay, and it looks like FCA might be busy with some other applications. I'm pretty sure there is, summer holiday holiday season. Some people might be off. So yeah, the situation right now, we're still waiting for this response. We understand that what we did is enough, and FCA is quite happy. Again, they verbally confirmed that, but we're just waiting for official confirmation, and next steps will be listed in this document. We are hopeful. I know it's very disappointing and painful for us to have this restriction in place. But again, we're doing everything we can in order for us to lift this restriction sooner rather than later. And maybe just wanted to provide a bit more kind of insights for our users, for our investors about situation in UK. As you probably know, there is kind of temporary registration regime at the moment. So if you're a crypto-related company, you have to be registered with FCA. And there are certain companies on this temporary list, and this FCA basically go through these companies and they assess them. And we now know that certain companies, for example, had to leave UK, and there are quite big names there, like Binance or Celsius, and a few smaller ones. And we do believe that we will hear more about more cases like that later this year. So the reason I'm talking about this is that it's very important to understand, while we have these temporary restrictions, which is it's disappointing, it's frustrating, it's unfortunate for us, but in the mid-long term, it will allow us to serve UK customers in a way FCA wants us to do that. And again, some other companies who didn't comply with the requirements, they now had to leave. And we will see more of such companies later this year. So from this perspective, the entry barrier in UK becoming very, very high. But also, we do expect that competition will go down at some point once FCA will go through all companies who is on temporary list. I also believe that FCA might be looking into restricting some other companies who is currently serving UK customers outside of UK. I think Coinbase and PayPal are very good examples. Both are not registered with FCA in UK, but they're serving customers outside of UK. I think this creates a market risk, because some of the market participants have to be registered, but some don't. I think FCA will be dealing with this at some point as well. Overall, I think what we will be expecting more regulated, clear, transparent market, and entry barrier will be high and competition will be lower.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting to hear, and you're absolutely right. There's a lot of companies, not only within the crypto-friendly space that we're operating, but even, let's say, some of the more mainstream fintechs, such as Monzo, who've been under various kind of investigations, or they're in dialogue with their own specific matters with the regulator in the UK as well. So I guess the message is we just have to hold on and hang tough and hope that the approval comes through very soon. One of the reasons why we've got a lot of questions actually about the FCA from UK users is it's related to one of the products that we launched earlier in the year, and that was X accounts, which has been doing really good. There were a few people that were just really upset that they can't take advantage of X accounts because it's a really good product. I'm just wondering, maybe you could give your perspective on how X accounts has gone so far.
Yeah, sure. But Tony probably will be talking a bit more about X accounts. But from my perspective, X account is one of the best performing and fastest growing feature product we ever had. I think probably CryptoBack was the first one in terms of engagement, in terms of generating activity, but X accounts growing exponentially. Again, I do have a couple of a couple of figures just to illustrate that. But if you compare July and August with just 2 months, July and August, in August we've got more than 100% growth in terms of assets under management. And in terms of funds added, we've got increase in 83%. So we're basically talking about exponential growth of a monthly basis. So starting from July and August, we increased our assets under management by 100%. And the interesting thing that the trend continues. So again, X accounts probably the most popular product, most popular features at the moment right now.
Great to hear, and let's hope that the UK users will be able to use it soon. And if you're not quite sure or you can't remember what the X accounts features are, then we'll be talking to Tony in a few moments and asking him to explain it in a bit more detail. Just one thing before we move into some of the questions. We've got a few questions from our Wirexers, but before we do that, I just wanted to ask you as well. So you just mentioned about this kind of growth that, we're talking 100% plus growth month on month, and it seems to be compounding each month as well, like this for X accounts. X accounts is almost like a simplified DeFi product. It seems that in Q2, you were mentioning how DeFi is moving from being a very niche interest from a low level to now becoming almost like a mainstream proposition. Do you feel that that's still playing out as you expected?
Well, I think that DeFi is on its way to mainstream. I don't think we're there yet, but I think the pace of growth for DeFi is just amazing. I think if you compare the same time, just 1 year ago, there was probably, 10,000 DeFi wallets. And right now we're talking about like 5-6 million of DeFi wallets. I do believe DeFi is growing again exponential. There are a lot of interesting use cases, high yield accounts, borrowing, lending. There is, NFT. Now there is different blockchain games using DeFi, and there are more and more tokens or projects being launched in DeFi space. I don't think we are in kind of mass market yet, and I think there are 2 main points needed for DeFi to reach mass market. First of all, just user experience. So user experience should be simpler. Some people might argue that, well, it's easy to get a MetaMask wallet and keep your private keys and pay in gas fees, but well, it's not a mass market product. And I think what Wirex did with X accounts, we tried to simplify this for general crowd, so you can just go do a couple of clicks and we do all the logic on the back end, on the background. But I think another interesting thing, and it might be controversial, but another important thing for DeFi to reach mass market is regulation. We can argue, can we regulate decentralized finance or decentralized applications, but it looks like SEC in the United States, they are planning to regulate this area. And I think regulation, I know crypto funds don't like regulation, and I think regulation is bad, but regulation and clear rules and transparency is needed for mass adoption for DeFi. And DeFi is the term, but there are a lot of different use cases in DeFi space. They might be regulated differently, but better user experience, simpler user experience, and regulation is what needed for DeFi to reach mass adoption.
I think Pavel's absolutely right there. One anecdote I'm not particularly proud of, but it's a true one, is to help us get to understand DeFi better. Pavel actually transferred me 0.5 Ethereum. This is a few months ago when the price was far lower. He wasn't being that generous, but he was still generous to try to use different DeFi products. And I think I spent about 0.3 of that on different gas fees, which were all-time high. So so basically the learning was, unless you have a large amount of money to put into those kind of DeFi products, you can actually spend more money than you ever put in. But I think the more simplified DeFi products like X accounts, you're trying to find this happy medium where anyone, even with £1 or £2 or €1 or €2, can actually start investing and taking advantage of that as well. Great stuff. Well, look, thanks a lot for giving that overview, Pavel, and hopefully all of you Wirexers found that interesting. We now are going to go through the questions. So these are the questions we've been harvesting from all of the Crowdcube investors over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully you received that email. As I said, please check your email if you haven't, and make sure you're putting the correct email onto your Wirex account, and then we'll be reaching out to you to ask for your questions and contributions to put to Pavel. I personally went through these, so just to reassure you, I'm not only giving him the nice, easy ones, we've also got some of the tough ones, but one or two of you aren't necessarily as polite as myself. Obviously, Pavel is my employer, so I may have slightly softened the language to make them more appropriate for daytime YouTube, if that's such an expression. So anyway, let's get into it. First question we have is from someone called F. Cotti. I'm assuming it's Italian, it sounds like it, saying, 1 year on from Wirex Crowdcube campaign, what do you see as being the next steps? Is it, for example, something that we might be doing again? What's the next step for investors in terms of crowdfunding?
Yeah, I think in terms of crowdfunding, I think that the timing, especially for investors, was just amazing, because we did crowdfunding campaign just before cryptocurrency hype, and obviously with cryptocurrency hype, we saw increase in revenue, number of registration, customers, volume, whatever. All the metrics were up, and with all the metrics and revenue, company valuation went up as well, drastically. But that's why I think for Crowdcube investors, the timing just was perfect. In terms of kind of the next steps, we are currently in conversation with multiple venture capitals about the next round, and I think it's an open question if we want to do another crowdfunding campaign. We might consider doing this as a part of a bigger round at some point, maybe January, February. But again, we will keep everyone updated about next steps.
Great. That leads actually nicely into the next question, which is from somebody called Mugsy786. I'm loving all of these crazy usernames. So this person is kind of related, in fact, to the earlier question from F. Cotti, which is, could you give a bit of an update on exit strategies? What kind of type of exit strategy do you think there might be for a company like Wirex? Is there a timeline, and would we consider an IPO? So quite a lot of questions there, but they're all related to the same thing. How do you see the business exiting, and when might that be?
But I have a feeling we answer the same question, every time. But desired exit strategy is IPO. Again, I think I mentioned this on the last call, that we are talking to different investment banks, so we understand the process. There are a couple of ways how we can do IPO. We are getting company ready, because in order to do IPO, it's not like just you need to have growth or revenue, but you need to have a proper governance and corporate structure as well. So I think we're working on that in background. In terms of the exact date for IPO, we don't have exact date. And the reason for that, because we do believe we can push the company valuation much higher, talking about 2, 3, 5 times before we do IPO. The IPO option is always on the table. But for us, we do understand, especially with launching new products, especially entering new markets, we can push company valuation, and also with expanding market as well, so we can acquire just more clients and generate more revenue. So IPO is desired route. We were approached by a couple of strategic investors as well, and they kind of interested in buying part of a Wirex, but IPO is our aim, and we don't have an exact timeline yet. Maybe at some point next year.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. Next question is related to something we discussed in the last session, and this is from someone called Quentin Cuby, which sounds like an 18th century character from I don't know, Charles Dickens or something like that. But anyway, this is Quentin Cuby's question. So would it be possible to give an update on your expansion into the US?
Okay, US, it's interesting. We're doing quite a lot on a background with United States, and we are literally like one step away. I wouldn't say the date for US launch, but we're so close. Yeah, might be happening any time now. Again, we did a lot of work for US launch to happen. We've got 2 banking partners. We've got maybe 3 partners in payment space who will be supporting our infrastructure in the United States. We will be able to launch in all states apart from New York from the day 1. New York will be available later this year. Again, don't want to spoil any announcement, but we are very close to US launch.
And I guess that's related because I know there were a few questions around this. Part of that frustration of not being able to communicate things is also linked into regulators. There's been changes there that have affected third parties, our partners, and that means that maybe some things have been delayed. But great to hear that there's probably an imminent announcement on that very soon, so that's great to hear. The next question was from a user called Hodishare, and Hodishare wanted to ask about Canada and Japan. So Hodishare invested in Crowdcube, so in our investor deck, we had several countries, we had a kind of a planned roadmap of expansion. Japan and Canada were in there. Have the plans changed now, because they haven't been mentioned very much? And if so, is that because we're focusing on new markets, or are there still plans to launch in those markets like Canada and Japan?
Japan and Canada are still on the plan. We're still planning to go there, but there is a delay with this market, and the reason why we have delay is because we just can't do all the things at the same time. Improving the product, dealing with regulator, launching in the United States. There are just too many things on our plate right now. So instead of doing all the things at the same time and doing them badly, we decided to focus on what's important right now and just doing them good. So US, Japan still in the plan, but there is a delay with these markets as we're focusing on product in existing markets and our launch in the United States.
Great stuff, thank you, Pavel. So next one, this is also from Hodishare actually, and it's linked into IBANs. So this is to do with the fact that IBANs are dependent perhaps on licenses we might have, and so the question is having an IBAN with your Wirex card dependent on a banking license from the Central Bank of Ireland, and what is the update on this? So obviously this is an EEA specific question. If you're in the APAC region watching this, just completely ignore the question, but for European-based users, I think that's the question.
IBANs doesn't depend on our license application with Central Bank of Ireland. We've just completed integration with a new provider for IBANs and for faster payment as well, and we hope we will launch it in a month or so. It's basically technical integration is completed, and we're just trying to find a slot to push the release, and there is also a couple of legal approvals we need to go through. But again, it's coming. We know that there is a huge demand for this functionality, and yeah, we're working on that.
Great, thank you. Next question was actually, it was almost identical question, I think, from two users. One was called Vince, and the other one was called Chris Eclipse, and the question was with regards to WXT token. So there were questions that were kind of related, and they're saying, do we have any plans to make WXT more appealing to Wirex users, or perhaps to grow the use of the utility token on the platform? And I guess to some degree, if those users are based in the UK, they're not currently taking advantage of maybe WXT integrated into X accounts, which is one way we're doing that. But just wondered if you've got any additional comments to those questions.
Well, it's a good question, and it's quite interesting because we've been having this discussion about WXT quite recently. We do have a plan how to make WXT great again, and this plan includes well, first of all, why we're talking about this, because we do understand that we can just add more utility to WXT, and we just need to push awareness of WXT. We don't even have a landing page about WXT on our website. So there is a plan. We know what to do. We know how to push utility for WXT. We also will be talking more about WXT and explaining what's happening. So you will see certain things in product where WXT will be used one way or another. Again, don't want to spoil any announcement, but we're working on that. And also we kind of continue switching to, not switching, but we continue adding new blockchains, so WXT can be cross-blockchain, cross-chained, and why we're doing that, different blockchains have different use cases, so we want WXT to be a part of all these ecosystems. So again, we understand the problem with WXT. We've never actually focused that much on that part of a business, because it was traditionally or historically more traditional business. But there is a plan, and we're working on that to add more utility to WXT.
Fantastic. Well, I actually have two questions here, but I think the last one I'm going to ask now, because it's linked into what you've just mentioned, and it's from a user called Ike_Jew_Ann, and it was with regards actually to you're mentioning sort of different platforms. So and this is quite a core crypto-related question. So it's saying, do you think that choosing the Stellar network instead of Ethereum has been a mistake? What are you doing to catch up in this direction and providing more Ethereum-based products? When would it be possible to withdraw WXT directly from Wirex into an Ethereum wallet? So quite a few questions, but they're all related really into the choice of Stellar versus Ethereum network and whether that was a good decision, and if not, what are we doing about it?
Okay. So the first question was about was Stellar a mistake or not? So how do I answer that? Let me just do a step back and explain a bit of history of WXT. So Wirex didn't launch the token during ICO hype. So ICO hype, for people who might be familiar with the industry, was happening in 2017. And a lot of companies were launching tokens there, and all you needed to have is just one page, well, not one page, well, 5-page white paper, and you were ready to raise millions. And a lot of companies did that. A lot of companies now, they disappeared or been sued by SEC in the United States. There are just a few companies who delivered. Back in the days, we didn't issue token during this hype because we saw a lot of risk and there were a lot of risk, there were a lot of scam, there was a lot of regulatory risk. So we launched our token in 2019 after consultation with regulator, where we kind of presented our token. And Wirex is more traditional business, so we do have a lot of revenue sources, and token for us provides utility. It's not like we are crypto business which just created around the token and you don't have anything else. We are licensed in multiple regions. We're more traditional business. But at some point in 2019, we decided, okay, we want to have WXT as it will provide utility for us. And the reason why we've chosen Stellar is because we wanted it to be fast and cheap. And Stellar did exactly the same. It provided what we needed, fast transaction and cheap transaction. At some point during our history, we realized, okay, Ethereum have a lot of use cases, and to be honest, it's not that a question of Stellar being bad. Stellar is fine, Stellar is good, but Ethereum is just too good. Ethereum is growing very fast. All new innovative use cases are happening on Ethereum. Community size on Ethereum is just much bigger. Well, some people might say that Solana is growing fast or Cardano is growing fast now as well. But at this point of time, a lot of innovation happening in Ethereum. All DeFi, for example, happening in Ethereum, and we want to be part of that community. So that was the reason why we decided to allocate or to migrate part of our WXT supply to Ethereum. And we will be migrating more of supply to Ethereum because there is a demand for that. Maybe in a couple of weeks, there will be an announcement around that. So we understand the opportunity Ethereum can provide, and we're moving into this direction. I also wouldn't say that we are limit ourselves just to these 2 blockchains. We want WXT being available on more blockchains, and again, different blockchains are suitable for different use cases. And answering 2 other questions, when WXT Ethereum will be available in our application. So this will be available next week. So you will be able to withdraw Ethereum version of WXT or receive or withdraw it from Wirex app, and you can use it on the different swap protocols. And there was another question about what we do in order to catch up with fast-growing Ethereum ecosystem. Well, first of all, we added and we keep adding a lot of Ethereum tokens, ERC20 tokens, and we expanding our partnership in DeFi space. Not many people know actually, but our DeFi journey started long time before DeFi was a thing, right? Yeah, we started our journey with partnership with MakerDAO. MakerDAO was one of the first players and innovators in DeFi space, and still that time Maker team used Wirex card to receive salary. So we started this partnership in this industry a long time ago, and we just expanding our our network, and we do believe there will be quite interesting use cases for Wirex app based on Ethereum.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So good news there for IkeJu_AN, you will be able to start using Ethereum-based Wirex very, very soon, and it's something that Tony's working on in the roadmap right now for a release. Final question then for you, Pavel, and this is again something that was kind of dogging us quite significantly in Q1 and Q2, and it's to do with customer services. So this was a question from Westy, and Westy was just saying that we've previously mentioned that customer service has been an issue. Can we give an update on what's been done since to improve it? Are things getting better? Because as an investor, Westy is concerned of seeing negative comments on social media, when there's angry users complaining and things. So basically, what's happened and are we improving?
It's probably another question I answered last time, but anyway, so we currently sorted out all issues we had in customer support. We increased the team size. We put SLAs on kind of key processes, so there is 24 hours verification SLA across different regions. So people submitting their documents in different time zones, but we're still able to provide with 24 hours SLAs, which is great. There is online support, online chat available in most of the countries as well. And yeah, we don't have any backlogs right now, and we're ready to scale and we're ready to acquire more and more customers. Probably negative comments you see right now is mainly coming from UK customers. It's very painful for us. But again, we're doing whatever we can to sort out and lift restrictions in UK, but sometimes it's very difficult to explain it to customers. So most of the complaints you see on social are coming from customers in the United Kingdom, which functionality is limited right now.
Thank you very much. And there was another question actually from Westy, which I'm not going to put to you because it could be seen slightly inappropriate, but Westy is actually, I think, a UK customer, and was saying, we're frustrated because we're not having access to our accounts, and is there a way that you can tickle our tummies and keep us sweet? So I'm not going to ask if you're prepared to tickle Westy's tummy, because I know that you're not necessarily going to do it with our customers, but maybe I can answer that one directly to say, kind of building on Pavel's answers there. At the moment, for our British-based customers, given the fact that we're waiting to go on the register, it would be highly unwise for us to do anything at all in terms of incentivizing, rewarding, giving any kind of benefits to UK users, because we're just not able to turn on those features at the moment. Having said that, the moment we go live in the UK, which we're hoping will be imminently, but we cannot speak on behalf of the FCA, obviously how we can reconnect with all of our British-based customers and get them back transacting, uploading, using the Wirex products as quickly as possible, that's something we'll come back to you on. So I'm really hoping to be able to update that one at some point in the near future. So that's great, Pavel. We're almost exactly on time, and we've gone through the good, the bad, and the ugly of the questions. So you've answered them all. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you with a couple more questions a bit later. But Tony, over to you. Tony joined us in January. I'm hoping you're not going to tell us, Tony, that when you joined us, you had a huge afro, and the stress and the exhaustion of Pavel as a boss and me as a colleague has made that effect on you. But I know you joined the company in January, so you've been in the company for like 9 months now. Could you just give us maybe a bit of a personal highlight on how it's been being the product owner and managing that roadmap?
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute whirlwind. I think 9 months felt like 9 years maybe in Wirex, but it's been nothing but positive in terms of what we're trying to achieve, and the great teams we've got kind of dotted around the globe, in particular in Kiev, and from a technical perspective that I work closely with. So yeah, it's been a real experience to be able to play a part in bringing some of the things on the roadmap that we have already in plan to life this year, like with the merchant reconciliation that we introduced. It feels like happened so long ago. It was only about 4 or 5 months ago in terms of the partnership with Snowdrops, and we've mentioned X accounts as well. We've had some really big launches this year, and yeah, we've got plenty more on the roadmaps to come. Brilliant.
And maybe I could just ask you a first thing, which was related to tokens. So I know when Pavel was on the couch last quarter, we were talking about new tokens that were on the roadmap. They had yet to be launched and yet to be live. But I know that since then, we've actually made several new tokens live on the products. And I know you've got others that are kind of cooking in the kitchen right now. Could you maybe just, for those people that aren't familiar with it, maybe give a couple of highlights on what we've already launched, and also kind of what's on the roadmap in terms of coming for new tokens, and when Wirex users will be able to take advantage of that?
Yeah, so we've launched over the last sort of 3 or 4 months around 20 new ERC20 tokens. Some popular ones such as OMG, BAT, and yeah, we've been taking our time to put them on and give users the opportunity to exchange and trade in certain regions at the moment, of course. We've got some heavyweights to come in the next couple of weeks, the ones Pavel's mentioned in terms of Solana, Cardano, and Polkadot, and kind of all the ones that are really hot in the market right now. We've got them coming up, so we're really excited to get them live. We've been cooking them in the kitchen, as you say, oven ready. We're just waiting to pull the trigger on those. So, yeah.
And I guess one of the things that maybe people that aren't involved in owning a product like yourself aren't always familiar with is they might just look at other apps or other exchanges who have got hundreds and hundreds of tokens and say, well, why don't you just add them? But I know it's a little bit more complicated than that, isn't it? So what is it that makes us choose one token over another, and why does it sometimes take a while?
Well, we want to be responsible with what we're doing as a company and for our users, so we don't just want to put any token on there without kind of doing our due diligence. So we are doing our assessments on the company, on the token, on how it performs in the market, and kind of the risk to, as I say, the company or the user. So that takes a little bit of time, of course. So we don't just want to kind of throw everything on the platform straight away. And also from speaking to our users directly, we've done focus groups during Q2. We do surveys, and it turns out that our users necessarily don't want hundreds and hundreds of tokens. They want us to be more selective with who we partner with and what tokens we put onto the platform. So yeah, we've been purposely more selective, and kind of that's the reason why. Yeah.
Fair enough, thank you. I know that there's also a partnership that we've made an announcement of, but many Crowdcube investors and people may not be directly familiar with, and that's to do with Fireblocks Partnership. So I was wondering if maybe you could just add a few sentences on what is Fireblocks and what does that mean for Wirex users?
So, well, very simply, it's an asset custody solution for us. It's fast growing to probably be one of the, if not the biggest in the industry. What it does for us is it opens up new tokens to us, and new opportunities to put different tokens on our platform, quicker and cheaper transactions for us. So it's a kind of really positive partnership that we're really happy to be a part of. What it means for users, like I say, quicker transactions, more tokens, but probably most critically is the security that Fireblocks offers us in terms of both the insurances that Wirex is able to benefit from as part of that partnership, and just the added security of the transactions that they make.
So if I understand correctly as well, with the Fireblocks, how it works is effectively they also underwrite to some degree those funds under management. So it just gives that extra layer for someone that's holding a certain value of one of those crypto assets. It basically means that partnership with Fireblocks will then underwrite it. Is that right?
That's right. It's just an extra layer of security and peace of mind for us and the user.
Fantastic. So looking into 2022, obviously you've now been in the company 9 months. I'm sure you've started to wrestle with that roadmap and start to plan what's coming ahead. Are there any particular highlights that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a lot of work in the background in the last few months, looking ahead to what we'll be delivering the back part of this year and into 2022. One of the things that we're most looking forward to launching is kind of the new user experience within the mobile app. We've got improved navigation. We're going to make it much easier for people to do the key actions that they want to be doing quickly, especially if they're price sensitive. And also we've got the market rates coming very, very soon as well. So that will make the app a lot more a lot richer proposition for our users to be able to kind of see what's going on in the market at any given time. And we're also looking at what happens next with X accounts, how we add more tokens to what's available currently with X accounts, and how we link it with our other platforms that we've got.
Fantastic. Final question to you before we go to a few from our Wirexers who have submitted them earlier is just touching a little bit on the US. So Pavel was mentioning, and he was kind of had a glimmer in his eye that suggested that there's covert operations as we speak in the US, and something's going to happen very soon there. But for for users that would create and open a Wirex US account once that becomes available, are there any major differences between that and the ones available in the EEA and the APAC region?
So we try and take a global approach where possible, but obviously we're mindful of different regions' regulations and also different regions' the requirements that the users have, the nuances around the world. By and large, the products will have a familiar feel to anyone that's seen the EEA or APAC. There are a few things that will be different in terms of the tokens we have available from day one. And also we've got a new reward token in X points that we're looking forward to. Similar to Pavel, I won't make any spoilers, but we're looking forward to being able to talk about our new reward token and how the US users will be benefiting from that.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So let's jump into a few questions from our audience, which are linked into some of the product experiences. And this is great because it's Wirexers who are also crowdcube investors who may be struggling, or they've got product ideas and things they want to put to us. So one question is from, I think it would be Ledial, is when will the Wirex MasterCard be available with mobile contactless payments?
So that's something that we want as much as everyone else. We've had some barriers in terms of the policies that the different mobile wallets have, and we're removing those kind of one by one. Fireblocks is something that it takes a big step forward towards being able to do that. But again, it's something that's on the roadmap. We're working towards it. Again, we try and take a global approach, but it may be that we're able to do it in different regions sooner than others. But it's something that we're working as quickly as we can on.
Okay, great. And next question is from Remcom, who says, could it be possible to add auto top-ups with debit or credit cards, allowing to spend from the Wirex card without having to manually top up fiat?
It will be possible, and we'll have it possible at some point. Again, these are the kind of cool new features that we're working on in the background, and that we hope to have live as soon as we can.
Okay, great. And then another question is from Wirex user 01, which says, I was wondering if there's any new functionality planned in the app, such as automatically generated account statements. And then also, kind of related, I guess, into this, do we plan to offer Wirex cards in the same currency, so several Wirex cards, so you could have more than one Wirex card in that currency? And then Wirex User 01 has got lots of questions, and then also joint accounts. So I think basically there's a couple of things really that Wirex User was asking, was about auto-generated statements, but then also perhaps having a joint account and being able to order more than one card.
Yeah, so I mean, we mentioned the roadmap. It's a long and winding roadmap in terms of what we've got on there. Statements is one that we have started working on. Again, it feels like I'm saying the same thing. We hope to have it as soon as we can. As Pavel says, we've got so much going on. It's about prioritising what is kind of an urgent and what can be delivered in due course. From a joint account perspective, it's not something that's huge in our industry in our section of this industry at the moment. So it's not necessarily something that we've mapped out how it would work. But again, it's these ideas that we talk about all the time, and we determine whether it's something we'll do. But having more than one card is certainly something that we've discussed in terms of having a spare card and things like that. So they're all under discussion, and hopefully we'll be able to give more information as we kind of move through the next few months.
Great stuff, thank you. Final question to you then. This is from CZAN65. Sorry if that's not how you like your username pronounced, but too many consonants in there for me, is could you just talk to us about the extras? Is the plan to maintain WXT as the price for extras, or would we look into other currencies?
So the immediate plan is to maintain WXT as the price. We launched extras earlier in the year, and we're constantly kind of looking at it, looking how we want to develop it further, and as we go into 2022, we've got additional kind of perks and different ways in which we can kind of reward our users. So as we kind of deep dive further into what extras will look like over the next 12 months, it's something that we're going to keep front and center of our mind in terms of the way in which it's priced. But the immediate plan is to remain as it is.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, Tony, and you've passed your baptism of fire on the green couch. So thanks a lot for answering all those questions. I'll come back to you with a couple of things related to APAC just towards the end, but let's actually take a pause from London for a moment and now cast our eyes all the way over towards the Pacific Ocean and to Singapore, where we have our regional head office. So in the regional head office, we have a gentleman called Slava Garal. He is the MD of that region, obviously allowing for time differences and the fact that he can't be here in London. We really wanted to talk to him because there's been some great success stories that we're really, really proud of in the business about APAC. So I spoke to him earlier this morning and asked him a few questions to just say, Slava, what are the highlights from the APAC region? What can you tell us? And what are some of the things to look forward to in 2021 as well? So Slava, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Indeed, we have very good numbers and results to update you about. But first, let me remind you that our organization in Wirex Singapore, Wirex APAC, is pretty young. With the history of slightly more than 2 years, we've delivered fantastic results, in my view. So first of all, our customer base. By the end of July, we managed to double the number of users since the beginning of this year. And let me remind you that we have still a few months to go till the end of the year. So by the end of this year, we are expecting to maybe double or triple the number of the users. But the most important thing, we are on a very good track to our first 1 million users in Asia Pacific. Next, our revenue. We managed to bring the revenue to the levels when we can confidently say that by the end of this year, we are booking into our accounts around 2 to 3 times more revenue than in 2020. As a result of this, we contributed to almost 1/3 of the group's revenue, which is a fantastic thing to have for such a young organization like us only in 2 years, from 0 to almost 30%. As a result, our profitability went to the very good level, and we managed to bring a few months already this year to full profitability. We will continue going like this, and we are pretty much sure that 2022 will be the year of full profitability. And last but not least, our team, the people who bring this result, who make this happen. If you come to our office a couple of years ago, you would see maybe the team of 2 or 3 maximum. Today we are more than 10 already, and we continue to grow. Most importantly, we managed to fill the most critical roles in marketing, in compliance, in management, and we continue to grow. So we are confident that the consumer will be happy, the regulators will be happy, the investors will be happy. To wrap up, the entire result for the past 2 years of our Asia Pacific business is significant. But what I'm more excited about is how much of opportunity is ahead of us, and I'm looking forward for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving that overview, Slava. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you earlier today. And I think for all of us in the London office, it's just been fantastic to work with that APAC team. I remember myself joining in January 2020 when I joined the Wirex team, and it literally was a band of 1 or 2 brothers out there in APAC. There's 1 or 2 people. It was a very, very tiny office. They could have fit in 1 Uber taxi with room to spare. And now to see it becoming a small team of 10, and that's growing, and as the business grows as well. And Pavel, I'm sure you're absolutely delighted to see that kind of growth and to reflect on just over, let's say, 18 months or so, and how far that business has now grown to be almost 1/3 of our global business.
Well, you're absolutely right. I'm very delighted with progress and growth, and I'm also proud that we have that team in Singapore, and I think Slava did a great job transitioning business from tiny business with just a few thousands of customers to business with generating quite substantial revenue and growing very fast. So you're absolutely right. This is, I think it's more than 1/3 of our global business, and with a plan of adding additional feature, region-specific feature, we do expect that this growth will continue, will accelerate as well. So it's very, very, very exciting time for us in Asia Pacific.
Fantastic, thank you. And there was actually one additional question which is kind of related to the APAC region. Slava, you get a pass on this one because you're not here, so I'm going to throw the question to Tony instead. And it might confuse people because the person who's asked this question is actually called Slava from Singapore. So You'll just have to take my word for it. It's not Slava who you just heard from. This is another Slava. Obviously, it's a very, very popular Singaporean name. It's Slava Solidki, and he said, I invested in Crowdcube Investors a year ago. I still can't open my account in Singapore because we won't accept electronically generated proof of address. How and when are we going to improve our onboarding flow? So I thought maybe I could ask you to address this one, Tony.
Yeah, of course. It's we've been looking at the onboarding flow in all regions to try and remove these barriers that we see, and with the nuances of different areas. This is one that we're very, very aware of. We're hoping to have some good news with this. We've been working on a couple of bits in the background, and we're hoping to remove this barrier and have a much simpler sort of onboarding for people in Singapore in the next week or so. I hope to have good news to communicate in a couple of days' time.
Great news. So yeah, Slava, not our Slava, but Slava, our customer Slava. Please hang fire, hang tough, and hopefully we're going to be onboarding you really soon because we're making changes, and that's something we'll be able to inform you about very, very soon. So thanks a lot to that. So we've actually pretty much reached the end of all of the questions and sessions. Thanks so much to Pavel for going through and fronting up and taking the good questions and the tough ones as well, and also Tony for talking about the roadmap and addressing some of the product-specific things. As a quick reminder, we've got 6,000 of you as investors. Please, please, please do two things. Firstly, to keep engaging with us, you can join the community channel. You can join the community.wirexapp.com, I believe is the address. I really hope I've got that one wrong. You can always use Google if I've got it wrong to double check. And secondly, check your email address because you can make sure you've got the correct email address. We do reach out to you guys every 3 months or so and ask for questions and comments, and we try to be accessible in this forum to come back and take not only the easy ones but also the tough questions as well. And then finally, please remember that we're all here to help Wirex grow. Some of you are asking questions about when are we going to exit an IPO and all these things. The best way to do that is just have all of you guys supporting us, engaging with your own friends and family, getting people signed up. We give really, really tasty WXT-based incentives and referral bonuses to people. So please think about how you can get involved and support us. We really, really appreciate it every time you do so. So it's going to be Q4 that we'll come back. So depending on how things are looking with various things in the pandemic and the global situation, if for some reason we feel it's not going to be comfortable for us to do a session in Q4 in December, we'll be doing it at the very, very beginning of January. But certainly we'll be back in December or January to do our Q4 summary and look ahead to 2022. And I'm sure we're going to have more exciting updates, hopefully by then, on the UK FCA situation, the USA launch, various roadmap initiatives and many more. So for the time being, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully see you in 3 months' time.